What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another episode of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango. Joining me, as always, are Robert E. Felice.
For this edition, I am just Bert.
Okay. It's Cal Wiggins.
And I'm Ernie.
That's probably the best response you could have had to that one. Oh, God. What we're doing today is an edition of Mount Rushmore. We are kind of keeping the trend going of what is happening right now in WWE, where people are getting their names changed. And some of them have been good, some of them have been bad, some of them are just name changes for the sake of it, where it's not really all that good, but, it's something. So on the kind of momentum swing of Raquel Rodriguez and Cruz del Toro and Theory and whatnot, we are talking about the
Gibson and Drake. That's a new one.
Is that a thing now?
Yeah, you missed that last night?
No, I didn't pay that much attention.
They're Gibson and Drake. What you think about that? They have a wrestler named Drake. I'm sure that won't confuse anybody anywhere ever.
I really just don't fundamentally understand why they think that that is better and worth the effort. Oh, well, he can't be Zach Gibson. Why? He should just be Gibson. Because that's going to be more, name. That's going to be catchier. Like, what? Like, dumb, stupid shit like that. But we are going to be talking about the two sides of the spectrum here, the best and the worst of the possible name changes that have happened over time, and we're gonna, of course, come around to with the Mount Rushmore. The whole point of the thing is the four pillars of that represent that the best. So as we go along and we do this, we want to know what your thoughts are, and the best way for you to do that is to drop a comment below and keep the discussion going. Tell us what you think that we were right about, what we were wrong about, what your list would be, and everything else that goes along with that. And while you are doing that, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel and ring that little notification bell. Hit the like button, hit the share button, hit that little thanks button if you want to pass a little bit of spare change our way. Open up your wallets in that fashion. There are a couple other ways you can do that too. You can hit that join button, get access to the members only content, which is the exact same thing as the Patreon. And if you get onto the Darkcast tier, then you can check out the thing that we just recorded yesterday, which was our pay-per-view cards for our Ring of Honor mock draft. So if you want to know what we did with the ROH rosters that we got, that's how you get access to that. You also have the Pick Your Poison tier where you can request things. So if you are feeling like it's been way too long since we've done a top rope list, which we almost made this a top rope list, but we decided Mount Rushmore would fit a little bit better, then you can request that. That's kind of the whole point of Pick Your Poison. But on top of that, you got the TeePublic and Redbubble t-shirt shops where you can pick up other things too, like stickers and mugs. And they always have like random stuff, especially on Redbubble, where you can get like a tote bag with these designs and everything for not only that, but for Fanboys Anonymous and a Mango tees. So if you're interested in anything like that and you don't know where to go, just shoot me a message or something and I'll fill you in on all that stuff. You can find it all on smarkoutmoment.com in some fashion, but let's get this party started here. We should probably, I think, start with like specifically best or worst and then go around here, because I don't think that we're going to be disagreeing about anything and being like, no, I would say that that's one of the best ones, and no, I would say, well, that's one of the worst, and that kind of thing. And we're not obviously going to do a Mount Rushmore of things in the middle where there's just okay, because what's the point of that? But I think that there are much less options of best name changes and way more options for worst. When I was making my list, at the very least, I had more. Calamena, that you had some stuff ahead of time of like a list here and there. Did you end up having a lot more under worst?
Well, yeah. I mean, just in general, like let's look at it. You're gonna have more under worst because if these name changes were on the whole good, then we probably wouldn't be doing this. Yeah,
it's it's usually just some of the names that WWE have come up with in particular over the past is they get very abstract. A lot of names. It's names that no human being would ever actually reasonably have. And we always have that discussion or that thing that goes around is, could you see this person main eventing WrestleMania with a name like that? And we'll see there's far more people on the list of things of, yeah, that's never, ever, ever going to happen if you've got that name. So, yeah, and there are a few more on the good side, but yeah, there are quite a few on the good side as well. So I don't want to say that this is all going to be negative, but it is a lot easier to find bad examples than good ones.
So here's one that I think that we, right out of the gate, could say it's a candidate for Mount Rushmore of best. The Ringmaster becomes Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Oh yeah, that's an obvious one.
Yeah.
Especially considering the rigmarole that came around to actually coming up with the name Stone Cold Steve Austin, when we could have had something that would have ended up being in the worst one, like Chili McFreeze.
Chili McFreeze, I think, is the worst. Imagine that, though. Guy goes, hey, I want to be more cold, like an ice cold killer. Great. Chili McFreeze. Like, I know Ice Dagger, like, depending on the context, Ice Dagger could be good.
But see, Ice Dagger sounds like it should be a G.I. Joe villain. Ice
Dagger feels like it could be a great wrestler if it was a bigger guy in the Hogan era, like Hulk Hogan versus Ice Dagger. I could see that.
He's the follow-up to No Holds Barred.
Well, the funny thing about Ice Dagger is that when you're saying it, it sounds like Ice Stagger instead of Ice Dagger.
That's true.
Maybe he should have had a middle name. It should have been the initial T. Ice T Dagger. And then now I'm just having flashbacks of this is a cold call.
Chili McFreeze. Can you imagine, like, what? He would have gone nowhere. He would have gone about as high as T.L. Hopper, you know? Like, who thinks Stone Cold Steve Austin or Stunning Steve and goes, got it, Chili McFreeze.
There would be a bad villain in almost anything. Like, Chili McFreeze would be like Sonic the Hedgehog thing or something, maybe. Like,
Chili McFreeze feels like the parody of Mr. Freeze when you're doing a Batman spoof.
Just Chili McFreeze. The Ice Age.
You go there.
Yeah. So obviously, he could have just been Stunning Steve Williams or Stunning Steve Austin or Ringmaster Steve Austin or whatever for his career. But Stone Cold Steve Austin is fantastic. So I highly doubt we're going to come up with 4 options that would unseat that. But a couple other ones that I thought were at least somewhat worthy of being mentioned for best. Jamal gets repackaged and he becomes Umaga.
It's good. I think it works. Well, it works only because the gimmick is what it is. But because otherwise, if it's just Jamal and he stays Jamal and it's just called Umaga instead, it doesn't work. But obviously, if you have the gimmick changed, then it does apply. But yeah, it's a good one. I don't think it's game changing, but it's good.
I guess that's something to bring up another point. Should we be strict enough to say it needs to be a pure name change with the same character? Or would you constitute like a repackaging?
I think that's too difficult. I think that's too difficult.
Because if you're going to do that, then like that throws out one of my best is Husky Harris gets repackaged as Bray Wyatt.
That was another one that I had on my list because I was just like, well, I mean, technically speaking, they do treat it as if it is the same character sometimes.
I would say that it doesn't necessarily need to be the same character and just a straightforward name change. But the thing we should be judging it on is the quality of the name. or how good the name is. The name is the strongest part, is the thing that we should be leaning more towards. Because I agree that Stone Cold Steve Austin is a great name. It was a great gimmick. It was a great change for his character, but he doesn't change that much. His character does shift, but the name is very, very cool, and it's easy to say, and it's easy to pronounce, and it has all that good element to it. It's far, far better than the Ringmaster.
It was a lot easier to pronounce before I had my Invisalign in.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Bray Wyatt is Bray Wyatt is a far better name than Husky Harris. I don't know if it's as groundbreaking because of the way that Bray Wyatt's career, for the most part, went, but for a solid long time in the company, he was one of their top stars.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's definitely into consideration. I mean, the one that stands out most to me outside of Stone Cold Steve Austin is Rocky Maivia to The Rock.
Right.
And that's a game-changing name.
Yeah, that is another one that I had that on my list of, like, I highly doubt we're going to pick more that goes higher than that, because that not only makes him cooler, but it coincides with the heel turn. It becomes something that has stuck with him throughout all these years. Even when they go with the whole, like, all right, well, we're not going to call him Rocky Maivia anymore. We're going to acknowledge that he's Dwayne Johnson. He goes into Hollywood as Dwayne The Rock Johnson. And a guy that is as big as he is outside of the world of pro wrestling comes back and people still chant Rocky.
I mean, he's always The Rock.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just say this right now. I think that it fits him perfectly. There was an instance I had told you about where I was with someone who didn't know that The Rock was a wrestler. They just thought that they called him The Rock because he has big muscles, so they gave him that nickname. Yeah, and that it happens like that sometimes, and I think The Rock fits him perfectly. That being said, I don't think, like, Rocky Maivia isn't a kiss of death name. I think that particular packaging was, but the name change worked so much better for him.
A couple other... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, if we're looking more on the slightly more middle, potentially ones, I would suggest the Mechanics being renamed as the Revival.
Yeah.
You know, I forgot about that. I forgot about, like, tag team names being shifted. But, see, I wouldn't put that in there because I still don't like the name The Revival. But the Mechanics sucked.
Well, they're just FTR now. How do you feel about that?
I don't like that either.
What would you name them, Tony?
I don't know, but FTR doesn't have a set acronym, and that kind of bugs me a little bit because it seems like it's like for the Revival, fuck the Revival, free the Revival, all that stuff leading into it, and then it's just FTR because
I think it works because of that, you know. And I think, for what it's worth, I think the Revival was a great name because they were the Revival of tag team wrestling, and it worked out that way.
I tend not to like names for tag teams that are a little bit more poetic like that. I like a name like Grizzled Young Veterans. That's like, okay, that's who you are. Or like the Smoking Guns rather than the Undisputed Era. Because it's like, well, you're 4 guys. Why are you an era? That's a distance of time. You know, like that kind of thing.
In fairness, I don't think... I never thought that was a great name, but the strength of the team kind of made that name good. That's one of those things where the guys actually just worked around the shitty name. You know, like another instance like that, Bearcat Lee, where I think if you gave them more time, people would have been all about the Bearcat. You know?
The Bearcat thing, I mean, that's one of those things. I don't have that on my list of worst, but that's an example of a nickname added on top of it that I wouldn't think would be the worst thing in the world if they would not have gotten rid of the first name. Like Bearcat Lee, I think it's terrible. Bearcat Keith Lee isn't too bad. You know, that's a distinction there. I would throw a couple of names out here, like Skip Sheffield becoming Ryback. think that was a massive upgrade.
He couldn't be Skip Sheffield forever, you know?
Yep. What it do? What a fucking terrible character. I have Aldo Montoya becoming just incredible.
I don't know if I want to count that, but
also, are we restricting this to WWE?
That's what I have it down as the Mount Rushmore of WWE.
Because Just Incredible is an ECW name, it's not a WWE.
Yeah,
name.
That's why I said I don't know if I'd count that, but
well, I mean, he was just incredible in WWE.
Yeah, but it's I would
later.
say it falls in the same category as Leif Cassidy changes to Al Snow.
Like you can't say, well, Oz in WCW did so well for himself that he became, NWO leader Kevin Nash.
No, I wouldn't count I wouldn't count the Oz one, but I would figure if you had the name in WWE and then you had another name in WWE, that would count. Like if they would have called him Vinny Vegas, then I'd go with that as like switch from that to Diesel. But I don't think that constitutes. But Aldo Montoya did become just incredible. So, I mean, it's not one that I would rank as high as Stone Cold, but it's another one that I thought of.
I don't think Just Incredible is a good name anyway. No,
I think that's a pretty good name.
It's fantastic.
Just Incredible, and then Justin. Yeah, I mean, like to me that's got more flair to it than I don't know, say Jake Atlas. I don't know why I went with Jake Atlas, but like that's just name kind of thing. At least there's like a little bit of a pun to it. How do you guys feel about Justin Hawk Bradshaw becoming Blackjack Bradshaw becoming John Bradshaw Layfield?
You skipped the part.
Well,
the
he is
majority
just Bradshaw.
Part where he was just Bradshaw.
But I mean, that's just dropping the name. Well, I guess dropping the name still does count. But
I like that he kept the Bradshaw.
Mm-hmm.
So you have that through line, So I'm going to say that's a thumbs up because that's a great character arc because he never leaves after that. He just becomes a different version of Bradshaw.
Yeah, I think going from Bradshaw to JBL is an improvement because, again, it works because of the character. And yeah, I think it's it was an upgrade for what they were going with.
I got on here. This one's all over the place, but it still kind of counts. I don't know if I would fully count Papa Shango switching over to Kama, but we've got Kama and then Kama Mustafa and then the Godfather and then the Good Father and then back to the Godfather again. But the gimmick name, this is where it gets a little interesting. Technically speaking, he never stopped being Kama.
Yeah, it counts.
Because he's the Godfather, but the Godfather is like a moniker. So he goes from Kama, which is kick any man's ass.
Which is great.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And then they decide to add Mustafa at the end of it when he switches over to the Nation of Domination, which is like, okay, cool. Kama Mustafa is a cool name. And then he becomes the Godfather. And then, of course, the Good Father is just a little, switch on that.
He's the Godfather of the Nation, Kama Mustafa. And then he's just the Godfather because it works. I actually think that's a thumbs up.
Yeah, that's on my list. Is like, I'd give that a lot more weight than some of the other ones.
Yeah, I have the Godfather as a thumbs up one as well. Specifically, the Godfather changed from Kama Mustafa.
Hunter Hearst Helmsley to Triple H.
Yep, that's a big one.
Another one on my list, yeah, for the best. Because Hunter Hearst Helmsley, if we go between promotions, that's already a step up from Terrorizing. But Hunter Hearst Helmsley, that name fit perfectly for that character. But once you start trying to make him cool, you really can't keep calling him Hunter Hearst Helmsley. Triple H was a great way to do that. And then you just call him Hunter as this like nickname. And obviously there've been plenty of references of just, I'm not talking to Hunter Hearst Helmsley, I'm talking to Paul Levesque and everything. But Triple H is a name that that helped him considerably switching over to Triple H. I got Johnny Curtis becoming Fandango.
Again, it's a guy that makes the gimmick work.
Yeah, because that's not great.
The name itself isn't great, but I think that the overall package switch was better for him. Yeah, it's not as high up on my list as like The Rock or something.
Johnny Curtis is pretty bland as well. Johnny Curtis is a name, so it's an improvement, but still.
I got Farouk Assad becoming Ron Simmons.
Well, I'd go Farouk Assad to just Farouk. Like he took that name, he made it work. The Nation gimmick is tremendous. Farouk Assad to Farouk is fantastic.
You probably could go down a diatribe of the shortening of names.
Yeah, like Alexander Rusev to Rusev. That's one that really works. One that I wasn't sure about at first was Cesaro. But looking back on it, I'm like, yeah, I like the just Cesaro better than Antonio Cesaro.
I can't actually think of any example offhand of any of them that I like better, except for Big E.
Really, I don't like that one.
I thought Big E was improvement. I like Elias instead of Elias Sampson.
I guess the Elias one, yeah.
Because it sounds like especially because he was having a singer gimmick. I thought that was kind of like Cher or something like that. It's just a one-word name, and so Elias works.
I like the Drifter above all that, like, because it worked for the kind of thing he was doing. But he made Elias really work, and he's making, quite frankly, Ezekiel work, because people are eating this up right now.
I think if they were to have spelled it differently, I would have liked that better. Like, Elias just by itself is just the name. It's just like, okay, well, this wrestler is Bill. And I don't think that that's catchy. I don't think that that's really all that good. But if it would just be spelled slightly differently just to stand out and be able to trademark it better. Like, not necessarily that this is what I would have pitched, but like if it would have been Elias with like an A instead of an E or something like that. Obviously that wouldn't have worked with the WWE stands for Walk with Elias, but you know what I mean? I'm just like on the top of my head, Elias with a Z and it's Elias instead, or I don't know, whatever, that kind of thing. Then I think I would have liked that a little bit better, but I still like El Vagabundo the best out of his names. That was fantastic when he's just like, no, I'm not Elias, I'm El Vagabundo.
One that I think was dumb, but the guy made it work. Wade Barrett to Bad News Barrett. Because like that was so silly, but Wade Barrett's so good that they worked right around it.
I loved the whole I'm afraid I've got some bad news thing.
Yeah, that was an improvement.
I don't know if I'd put that on the Mount Rushmore best, but I do really like Bad News Barrett. I didn't think about that one. That one was good. I've got Diesel becoming just Kevin Nash, but that's not under like a best. It's just, you know, one of those things where it's like, do you like that better? Do you like Razor Ramon, Scott Hall better? That kind of thing. The Mick Foley, Mankind, Cactus Jack, Dude Love thing. I don't know if I'd constitute that. And I mean, it ultimately still just keeps going back to Mick Foley. So
I'd put Mankind above Mason the Mutilator.
Good Lord,
I would have fucking killed him.
Mason the Mutilator versus Ice Dagger. There you go. The next round of Mortal Kombat.
I know we're trying to stick to just like straight up renamings, but we have to talk about Glenn Jacobs going from Isaac Yankem to Diesel to fake Diesel to Kane, which just is an iconic character.
Yeah, if that would have been treated as the same character, I would have put that down, but they kind of separate it enough that they don't count one of his Royal Rumble eliminations because he eliminated somebody as Isaac Yankem, and they're just like, no, that doesn't count. Kane only got so-and-so.
Talk a little bit about Festus to Luke Gallows.
Oh my God.
Because they treat him as the same character as well, because they explained that his name was Luke Gallows.
That's gotta be 100% a CM Punk thing, right? Like,
wanted to make sure that there's a story behind it rather than just say,
like,
hey, this guy's come out of nowhere.
Yeah, and saved his career. He's been Gallows ever since. He was the big LG, now he's Doc Gallows. You know, it's a great name change. He was Festus, for God's sake.
Festus into Luke Gallows is a drastic difference. That would be a potential Mount Rushmore thing, I think. I gotta remember the other one for one of the worst. I've got this down as one of those things that's a combination of them, so I'm gonna put a pin in it, but we will eventually talk about Hennig. What other ones do we have for best before we go around back to him again? Johnny Polo to Raven? Doesn't really count.
That's kind of like a Just Incredible one. It is pretty good though, because Raven's bad. 1, 2, 3 Kid to X-Pac is an interesting one.
There's a whole journey there, yeah.
Because like 1, 2, 3 Kid to 6, even though he's jumping promotions, it makes sense because 1 + 2 + 3 = 6. And I have heard him talk about how much he hated having to explain the 1, 2, 3 Kid, like to women at bars and stuff like that. So when you come back, it's just X-Pac. It's the same character. He's one of the few where it's always been treated like it's the same guy. And I think that's an improvement because he's been X-Pac forever.
The problem I have with that one, though, the fuck does X-Pac mean?
But he's just like, it's me. I'm X-Pac. I guess it's because, like, Tupac. Alexa, stop. I guess it's like the whole Tupac, 6-Pac kind of thing.
Because he went from 6 to 6-pack, essentially. And it was 6-Pac. And then it's just X-Pac, but it's
Pac. Like, they spelled Wolfpack like Wolfpac. So they were always just into that whole
PAC,
scene.
Yeah. I wouldn't Mount Rushmore it, but I mean, that guy has been the Lightning Kid and all these other things like that.
Here's a bad one that I think the guy made it work and he'll never be anything else. Paul White to the Big Show. Like, the Big Show's so dumb.
Giant Paul White.
So dumb. But I can't look at him and think anything but Big Show.
It is weird how that worked out, right?
I think the name's too dumb for me to allow it as part of the thing. Because the Big Show is such a bad name. It only works because he was the Big Show for so long.
Here's one that we might have to Mount Rushmore. The Dingo Warrior to the Ultimate Warrior.
Was he Dingo Warrior in WWE?
Yeah.
Very briefly, yes.
When he first came in, the first like dark...
The first couple
matches or first house shows and stuff like that he did was as the Dingo Warrior.
Yeah, I mean that's a massive upgrade.
Yeah. I mean, it was interesting because I remember listening to when I was watching the Self-Destruction of the Ultimate Warrior DVD, which you should try and find because it is just the craziest.
You should absolutely try to find.
They talked about how they were a bit hesitant about keeping the name Warrior all together because there was the Road Warriors and there was Kerry Von Erich at the time was going by the name the Modern Day Warrior. So they kind of think, okay, there are too many warriors in wrestling, but they decided to stick with the Ultimate Warrior, and it does work.
Quite frankly, it's a great wrestler name. Maybe one of the best as just pure name. And you mentioned those individuals, but they come together in 90 at Survivor Series to just be the Warriors, and it's one of the best Survivor Series teams ever because of that.
That might be on the list, yeah. How do you guys feel about Hollywood Hulk Hogan?
Well, brother, let me tell you, I wanted to turn heel at WrestleMania 6 and be Triple H, brother. I saw it back then. You don't even know. It's fine. Hollywood Hogan is good. I think so many years have passed that he's just Hulk Hogan now. It was a great character change for him at the time, so we might have to consider Mount Rushmoreing it, but I can't hear that without thinking of his silly story about wanting to turn heel, which is just bullshit.
See, I kind of put it in the category of it's almost more of an addition rather than a change. Because he is technically Hollywood Hulk Hogan. And then they just sometimes say Hollywood Hogan. If he would have completely dropped the Hulk part 100%, rather than just, we tend not to say the word Hulk as much, then maybe. But I almost kind of look at it as the same as like the Black Heart, Owen Hart. He was always Owen Hart, but outside of the Blue Blazer. But like the King of Hearts, the Black Heart, the whatever, like you switch it up a little bit like that. He's still Owen Hart, so I don't know if I would really fully count it, especially not to Mount Rushmore, but I figured Hollywood Hogan's worth at least mentioning. I don't think I have any other ones on my list that were under the best category. Any other I'm forgetting?
I've got quite a few more.
Oh, go for it.
Santos Escobar from El Hijo del Fantasma.
That's a fantastic one, yeah.
Phantasma. Because Santos Escobar is a great name.
Especially the first time he said it. I am Santos Escobar. It's just like,
and they've kept hold of the Phantasma thing with the Legado del Fantasma, so there's still that legacy there, but he's got a name which is a lot easier to pronounce and just works for him. Like I see him now as Santos Escobar.
Mm-hmm.
Psycho Sid from Sid Justice.
Oh, that's right, yeah. Psycho Sid's a great name.
I like that he keeps the Sid, whether it's Sid Vicious in WCW or, Sid Justice, to just Psycho Sid. Sid, that's top notch, and I think he deserves more praise.
I'm glad they didn't go with like Insidious or something like that.
We have Spark Plug Bob Holly to Hardcore Holly.
Yeah, Thurman Sparky Plug. My God.
Plug, yeah.
All right.
Hardcore Holly.
I'm going to put it out there. We need to put that down as one of the best. To switch from Thurman Sparky Plug to the Bob Holly kind of things.
Bob Holly, yeah.
Thurman Sparky Plug.
Because that's fucking terrible. That's one of the absolute worst names they've ever had. I get Sparky Plug. It's terrible, but I get it.
It's STP,
but
then they don't even do it right.
Right, because it's TSP. And who the fuck back then is thinking, I know what we can call this badass? Thurman. You guys seen Bad Santa? The little kid's name is Thurman Merman. Good Lord, that has to be on the list.
Yeah. Got a few other ones that I've considered. Fatu to Rikishi.
That's right. I did have that down as Fatu to the Sultan to Rikishi as being like a big whoa, this was a change kind of thing.
Yeah.
In hindsight, with the legacy of the families, Fatu is great, but I like that he originally spelled it Fatu, like Phatu, when he came back as Rikishi. He was Rikishi Fatu, and then they just dropped it, and he became Rikishi.
In a similar vein, you could say similar things to from Scott Taylor to Scotty Goldman and from Brian Christopher to Grandmaster Sexay. I think they're all improvements considering the gimmick.
I mean, as on the whole, I think Brian Christopher to Grandmaster Sexay was interesting, but with the gimmick, it works so perfectly.
I don't know whether we'll count this one because it's an OVW to WWE change, both of these ones. From the Prototype to John Cena.
Yeah.
And from Leviathan to Batista.
Yeah,
They
'cause
got lucky.
with Deacon Batista in between as well.
yeah, Deacon Batista.
They got so lucky that they were in that era. That Vince
Yeah, well,
was
they able to
just
use their real names.
That Vince was for some reason just like, why the hell would we ever change their name? And it's worked out great for both. So I have to say thumbs up.
I wouldn't count it because it is OVW, but it's definitely, goddamn, they made the right decision there.
We can count a change from NXT to WWE, can't we?
Oh, yeah.
I think so.
In which case, I would suggest Leah Key to Roman Reigns.
That is a really good one. Yeah.
Because Leah Key is, again, it fits with the thing, but when you think Leah Key, I'd say, okay, your ceiling is you're another Jamal or Rosie type person. Whereas you give them the name Roman Reigns and it feels...
You're a fucking movie star.
Yeah, you're a big deal, yeah.
Yeah, I always thought that the Leah Key name was a little too, oddly enough, close to Leilani Kai in my mind. Like, I could see Leah Key being one of the women's division more so than the top, muscular behemoth Roman Reigns guy.
And the other one I had down on my list was Mike Mizanin to The Miz.
That one I wouldn't count since it is just kind of a little bit of a shortened thing. It's something that has helped his character a whole lot, but I wouldn't Mount Rushmore it. Not that I wouldn't count it as like a name change, because obviously it is a name change. Any kind of name change, even if they just drop the first name, like the Austin Theory thing, it's a name change. But yeah, I wouldn't quite Mount Rushmore it, especially with some of the other ones we've talked about. There's got to be so many more that we're forgetting about, too. That's the thing. Especially when we start getting into the worst ones, too. But
I mean, like, I don't know if this is best, worst, or indifferent, but Mabel becomes Viscera, becomes Big Daddy V.
I have that down under my worst.
I don't think any of those names are good, so I wouldn't
I mean,
say
Viscera worked in terms of the gimmick. Like, they were giving these people, ministry name. You're now the Acolyte. You're now Midian. You're now Viscera. It's
maybe on that front, because we have already talked about both Farouk and Bradshaw, we could say that the APA is an improvement on the Acolytes.
And it keeps the same vibe of like the Acolyte Protection Agency.
I would Mount Rushmore, but I like the APA gimmick way, 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 way better than just the Acolytes. Yeah. I'm drawing a blank on any of the other examples. Yeah, especially like tag team names. Like, there's probably so many more tag team names that I could think of.
I'm trying to think of. Well, I have at least one, maybe a couple for the worst. So we'll get to that. But I can't remember any other ones that stand out as like good tag team changes.
Yeah, me neither.
Were the Hardy Boys something before they became the Hardy Boys?
I don't think so.
It might feel like they were around for so long that you'd assume that they would be at some point.
Right. So I think that they were just like Matt and Jeff Hardy, the jobbers, and then, okay, we'll call them the Hardy Boys. That's clever.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else off the top of my head. That was an improvement at the very least.
I like there's little ones like Davey Boy Smith just becomes the British Bulldog and he stops being Davey Boy Smith. Like,
I have down
really good at
the roadie becomes Road Dog Jesse James.
Yeah, he's got a good journey with his name, because he goes from being the roadie to being the real Double J Jesse James to being the Road Dog Jesse James. It just works.
K Quick becomes R-Truth.
I don't want to count that.
Yeah, that's too much of a gap, I think. And again, it's not. Even though R-Truth is a WWE creation, he's not R-Truth if he's not Ron Killings first.
I do have Billy Gunn becomes Rockabilly becomes Badass Billy Gunn as just like, let's get rid of that fucking Rockabilly thing, but I wouldn't Mount Rushmore that by any means. No. So add this list of the best ones if we're going to kind of keep this around. The other one I want to mention that is a transitional kind of point is Joe Hennig gets introduced and they immediately switch him to Michael McGillicutty, which is absolutely terrible, and it's going to be on my list of potential worsts. And then they go, let's go with Curtis Axel, which is like, my God, that was a massive upgrade from Michael McGillicutty.
Go ahead.
I mean, it's fine. It's definitely much better than Michael McGillicutty. I wouldn't call it a Mount Rushmore worthy name, because I think Curtis Axel is still a bad name.
It's no Bob Holly switch, but to me, that's the difference of, okay, I could take him seriously now as Intercontinental Champion.
I think the thing is they didn't capitalize, right? Like, he was Curtis Axel. He had a brief moment in time where he was a big deal, and then they dropped it, rather than, seeing where Curtis Axel could go. And I think that's one of the reasons why I still wouldn't Mount Rushmore.
So we probably are all in agreement. Stone Cold is a Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, so is The Rock.
I think that The Rock one has potential. I think that the Bob Holly one has to be on it. Because that's just one of the fucking worst names ever.
Thurman.
And then we got a couple other ones that we were mentioning. I mean, based off of the discussions that we've had, The Godfather would be maybe on there. The JBL one, Triple H, Luke Gallows, Ultimate Warrior, Psycho Sid, Roman Reigns.
Warrior, to me, just because Dingo was... Come on, Dingo. Fuck.
He should have eaten someone's baby.
I would say, I think it's, at the moment, in my mind, it's Stone Cold, The Rock, Hulk Holly, and I'd probably go either Triple H or Roman as the other one.
Hunter, to me, just because you get the full legacy and you keep the character, and he's one of the best wrestlers of all time, I might say Hunter over Roman, because a lot of people didn't get to see Leaki, right? We all saw Hunter Hearst Helmsley wrestling Henry Godwin in pig crap. It's a huge improvement.
True, but I could get that argument as well. But then when we get onto the worst, I don't want to hear you say that Butch is a bad one, because no one knows who Pete Dunne was realistically to an extent on a watching Raw or SmackDown.
I'm still going to talk about it as just a bad name, because he's Butch. But
I can understand the Triple H one. But I just feel like with the Roman Reigns thing, it's a case of if he's Leaki, he's never being the guy, and Roman Reigns, he is the guy. So I think that's the difference for name change to me, and that's why I'm kind of even though I know how much of a game change, a much improvement it is to have Hulk or Holly instead of Furman Sparky Plug, it's the fact is that even as Hulk or Bob Holly, he didn't actually do much.
Well, you see, he had an idea.
He went from being a jobber to a mid-card guy.
That's because they didn't listen to his idea.
But see, I don't think we should judge based off of whether or not the name change made them a main event guy. I think it should be just basically the name change.
Okay.
Because if you go in that direction, then we could only pick people like Stone Cold and The Rock and whatever. We wouldn't have a name like Festus into Luke Gallows. But I think that's a massive upgrade, because he couldn't have been taken seriously as Festus.
No.
I would think we've got a 2-tier thing going on right now. We know we got Stone Cold. We know we got The Rock. I'm pretty sure that we're going to all go with Thurman Plug. And then I would lean more towards Dingo Warrior to Ultimate Warrior as the fourth for the main one, with the B tier being Triple H, Roman Reigns, Luke Gallows, and The Godfather.
I think I can live with that.
It's like I said, over The Godfather, I'd say.
I can also live with that.
Psycho Sid was another one that was just right around that edge. So,
I think that's an improvement over The Godfather, because The Godfather is a moniker. His name is still Kama Mustafa.
I guess it's true.
The Godfather instead.
I guess
I know
it's
it's still a
name
name change, but I personally would prefer either on that front, I'd either go with Psycho Sid or I'd go Rikishi as well.
I mean, like the Psycho Sid packaging, the music, man. It's Psycho Sid's fantastic. I'd go Sid over Godfather.
I'd go Sid on that. Yeah, you won me over with that. Okay, so then that's our B tier is Sid, Roman, Triple H, and Gallows. All right, I'll go with that. Holy fuck, let's start getting into some of these worst ones because Jesus Christ, there's a lot.
Them, yeah.
Somebody
let's
that
let's start off with a softball because I'm gonna say kind of the opposite of Leaki to Roman. Nick Nemeth, the natural Nick Nemeth, Dolph Ziggler.
Dolph Ziggler is a terrible name.
Yeah,
it's better than Dirk Diggler, but like it's a bad name.
Well, we said the other day. I mean, it's as close as you can get to Adolf Hitler. You know.
I definitely had Dolph Ziggler on my list. It's maybe not necessarily for Nick Nemeth, but it's an improvement on Nikki at the very least because you can't really get anywhere with a one name first name, I should say, because I think you can get away with like Big E and Cesaro and Rusev, but if it's a first name, it really just kills you.
Elias.
Butch.
Butch. Oof.
Well, Butch is bad, but like Elias works because he was never going to be a main event guy anyway. So
yeah, Dolph Ziggler is one of those really, really terrible names.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'd go Mount Rushmore worst, but straight up names when they first announced that was his name, I was just kind of like, who the fuck picked that? Dolph is already a name that like nobody names their kid Dolph. The only Dolph I'm aware of is the one from The Simpsons, you know? Ziggler, like, and his finisher is the zigzag. It just sounds so lame. I would call it the zigzag, but still, you know?
I mean, when Vince in 2016 is hyping the Royal Rumble, the one versus all with Roman, and he just goes, "Where's Dolph Ziggler?" It's like, man, he's been in your company for 10 years and you can't say his name right. Dolph Ziggler? Like, yeah.
Somebody that we mentioned earlier that I think is definitely worth the discussion is the Michael McGillicutty thing.
Yeah, it's a really, really, really bad name. I don't know what else to say on that one. It's just like
everybody.
That's the son of Kurt Hennig. That's the son of Mr. Perfect, and you got even that now.
And they didn't even try to act like that wasn't the case. They did what they're doing right now with like Braun Breaker. Like Carmella, for instance, they never really fully addressed that her father was a wrestler. They've, made a couple little references here and there on like supplemental material, like, the day of. Okay, on a documentary, she'll be like, my dad never really got further than being a jobber in WWE. But they don't really refer to her as Leah Vandal. She's just Carmella. Raquel, in the Mae Young Classic, I'm pretty sure that she talked about her dad. And then, of course, now they just changed her name to Raquel Rodriguez, which is just dumb. It's not one of the worst name changes, but it's just like, why kind of deal. But they flat out go, the son of Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig, Joe Hennig here. And then it's like, my name's Michael McGillicutty. And it makes it even worse that he cut that fucking promo of the genesis of McGillicuddy.
It was the moment of the genesis of the McGillicuddy.
Like, that made it even worse. But, like, Michael McGillicuddy? That sounds like a fucking Riverdale name or something.
Well, if you're going to go in that direction, I think we have to talk about Brett and Brian Major. I don't even know if I would say that it's bad, but Brett and Brian Major become Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder, because Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder just sound like the most generic CW antagonist names ever.
I wouldn't go anywhere close to that being the worst name changes, though. I actually liked those names better than Brett and Brian Major. I like Brett and Brian Major as like a pseudo brother tag team, and I wish that they would have kind of kept that going. But like the name Zack Ryder, I like that name. I don't like Johnny Nitro to John Morrison.
I love that. Are you crazy?
I think
It's
that
Johnny Nitro.
Nitro had more like pizzazz to it, you know? And then he's been
No, he
Johnny
was
this,
kissing
Johnny
Eric
that,
Bischoff's
Johnny that.
ass. I mean, yeah, he's overdone it now. He's Johnny Mundo, Johnny Worldwide, Johnny, what was he? Johnny
What is he now?
Caballero,
Johnny
Just-
Impact.
Johnny Impact. Like he isn't anything specific now. I think he's been doing Johnny Superstar in AAA. But yeah, I think Morrison is one of the John Morrison, especially because he looks like Jim Morrison. It's a great name.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad one necessarily. That's what I'm fairly indifferent to. Because Johnny Nitro sounds, like I say, it has more pizzazz too, but it also sounds like a indie wrestler name.
True.
Well, not even indie wrestler name. It sounds like a backyard wrestling name.
It's not on my worst of the worst. It's just one of those ones where I head down and it's like, I don't fucking like this kind of thing.
That's goes so bad. Let's talk about the Viking Experience.
That
Oh
one
my
is on my
God.
worst. That is
so
potentially
terrible.
one of my Mount Rushmore ones because holy shit was that bad.
It was already enough to go from War Raiders to Viking Raiders because, okay, like, I understand you don't want to go with the War Raiders, you don't like the word war in it, and you want to attribute them to Vikings instead, that's fine. But start off with the Viking Experience is just so lame.
See, what's bad about that too is I have no connection to War Machine outside of, Marvel. But like War Machine on the indies, it's a name, cool, whatever. And it's Hansen and Rowe. They're just names. Doesn't really matter. But you go War Raiders, okay. That's could be better, could be worse kind of thing. But then they just come out and they're Eric and Ivar, the Viking Experience. When we know that a few days earlier, they are Hansen and Rowe, the War Raiders, and they're NXT Tag Team Champions, and they're relinquishing the titles. And you're like, nope, Eric and Ivar, Viking Experience. For them to change the name the next week because of how bad the response was, I think that almost has to be a lock.
I mean, there's plenty more names to go through, but it's definitely a high up choice.
Viking Experience. It's a fucking Epcot ride.
It wouldn't even be that good of a ride as well. It's like, if anything, you add the word like the Viking Experience, it sounds like it's going to be a history lesson rather than a fun ride through.
It's when you go to the Norway part of Epcot and they've got the model ship and it's like, oh, you're going to go see the Viking Experience. And then you sit in front of a television screen and it's just like, in Scandinavia, the Vikings, when you're like, oh, fuck, I'm here for a history lecture instead of anything else. Terrible, terrible fucking name. It's okay, I guess, as their finisher name. But Christ, even that. Ugh. Not one of my absolute worst, but I just wanted to say because I hated it. The Slammaster J, what a dumb thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Jesse was any better.
Yeah, Jesse's pretty bad as well. So
yeah. Here's one that I think maybe the gimmick hurts it even more, but I hated it. I hated everything about it from start to finish. Emma becomes Emmalina, and for weeks and weeks and weeks they build this shit up, and she comes out and she's like, "I'm Emmalina," but I guess not really. And then that's the end of it. Like, god damn.
But like when you realize how unhappy she was, that was probably just her being like, I don't want to fucking do this. And if you're going to make me do this, then I just don't want to be here. And they were just like, fine, just be Emma. So they just went, okay, back to Emma.
I don't even understand why they added the Lena. Because Emmalina? What name is that?
I think it was just supposed to be like some kind of, I guess what you would probably now call an influencer. Literally what she's doing now in real life. But just with the fake name of Emmalina. But it's bad.
It's up there for me. Phineas I. Godwin.
Oh, come on.
Becomes Naked Midian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's not just Godwin to Midian; it's Midian to naked Midian is the real change. I mean, admittedly, he was a jobber anyway, and well, that's just him running around naked instead. So it's like, yeah, it's a really, really dumb name. But to be fair, it was Midian and he was naked. So what else are you going to call it?
Let's just be honest. In the world of really weird, bizarre 90s names, Henry O. Godwin and Phineas I. Godwin, because they're hog and pig.
Fantastic.
Pretty clever, yeah.
Absolutely one of my favorite things that they had done as far as dumb gimmick names. The hog and pig. Fucking great. I'd put it down a potential Mount Rushmore best silly names. So that's why it's even more disappointing, because it's like, you're not pig anymore, you're Midian? What's Midian? Oh, that's I got a third eye. No, you don't. Now you're a streaker.
One that we mentioned earlier, because you mentioned from going from Billy Gunn to Rockabilly and then to the Badass Billy Gunn. Can we talk about going from Badass Billy Gunn to Mr. Ass?
Mr. Ass is a dumb name.
Mr. Ass is
so fucking stupid. It's like what his whole gimmick and his theme song. It's like it's the idea he likes to love him, likes to touch him, likes to what? It's like all this stuff. It's just like him talking about what he likes to do to asses. It's just like if you actually listen to it, it's just like it's bizarre.
Really,
yeah,
it leads to Billy and Chuck, maybe kind of.
That's how they get into it. He's just kind of like, Chuck's got a great ass. I love to kiss it. Oh, I love to like just kind of.
But don't worry, he's not gay.
And then the crowd pops like crazy.
Yeah, Billy Gunn's had an interesting history with his name, because they tried Rockabilly, then he was just Billy, which is bad. Like, one name is always bad. And then, like in TNA, I know we're not doing these, but he was Kip James, just so that they can force the James Gang label on the New Age Outlaws. And for that matter, Voodoo Kin Mafia is the worst name I've ever heard for a tag team like that.
It doesn't make any sense.
Oh, it does make sense.
It does make sense.
Because it's VKM.
And they
VKM thing, but Voodoo Kin Mafia?
Yeah, they just wanted to come up with a stupid thing to make sense of the fact that they wanted to go with the VKM initials.
Yeah, it's just like, if that would have been Papa Shango and whatnot for the voodoo part, I can understand it, but...
Well, they had Roxy Laveau for a while.
Did they?
The
I
Voodoo
don't even
Queen.
remember that.
Yeah, she was the Voodoo Queen, yeah.
Huh. Here is just a bunch of them in a row. Mia Yim becomes Reckoning. Shane Thorne becomes Slapjack. Dio Madden becomes Mace. And Dominic Dijakovic becomes T-Bar.
Oh, don't forget, even though it was very brief, Mercedes Martinez becomes Retaliation. So,
all right,
Retribution just sucked so hard.
Objectively, T-Bar is the worst of these names.
Slapjack's the worst. I mean, T-Bar's bad, but Slapjack, come on, his name's Slapjack.
At least Slapjack is something.
See,
like,
the thing with it, though, is when you look these up, like Mace, we know what Mace is. Obviously, it's the spray and it's the weapon and whatever. And it seems like they're going to be repackaging him as Face.
All right.
Now, but I
like where they're going with that.
I kind of like it too a little bit, but like that. All right, Mace, it's kind of bland, whatever. Mia Yim becomes Reckoning, and it's like you went through a bunch of names that you were thinking about for Retribution, and you just throw it on her or whatever. But you didn't bother to Google Slapjack and T-Bar, which on Urban Dictionary are, for T-Bar, a thong. So you're basically naming the guy G-string. And then Slapjack is something where it's like you're jerking off in your hand and slapping somebody in the face with it. Like, why would you give this guy this name?
Okay, but in fairness, Slapjack is also a weapon. T-Bar, if you don't know anything, T-Bar just sounds dumb. Like, T-Bar is just objectively the stupidest name possible for somebody. And God bless Mustafa Ali, who was trying to go on after the bell and be like, well, I wanted people to understand what it's like to be made fun of for your name, so I gave them stupid names. But T-Bar, you've got Dominic Dijakovic or Donovan Dijak or
D-bag.
just Chris or even just listen, D-bag is at least something. Still better than T-Bar. Retribution was the worst. And quite honestly, it's a miracle how they thought that this was going to be groundbreaking and it was going to save them during the pandemic. And then half of them are gone. One of them is dying to go. And it looks like the one that may stay is Mace, who will be face. But he will not be a face. He will just be face.
There's a chance to putting just Retribution as like a combination on this list.
And it's one that we should really consider.
Would you guys constitute Chavo Guerrero to Kerwin White?
That's a terrible name.
That's
the worst part about the name is the fact that it lends itself to the infamous phrase, if it's not white, it isn't right.
Yeah, I think that we should strongly consider Kerwin White as Mount Rushmore bad.
Because they acknowledge it's Chavo.
Yeah.
So it's not even like it's like
the whole gimmick is he's denouncing his heritage because it's not white, it's not right. It's up there.
So it's not like it's like, okay, well, we're just gonna pretend like it's a different guy. Like, no, that's Chavo. we're calling him Kerwin White, but he is Chavo. It's not Chavo, Chavito, like whatever, that kind of thing. Carlito, Caribbean Cool drops it and he's just Carlito, like that kind of a name change. But it is clearly not the same as, okay, we're just going to bring you back as a completely different character.
Oh, speaking of which, where you just brought up Carlito, can we talk about from Echo and Primo to Los Matadores?
Oh, that was awful.
To the Shining Stars as well. Just
I like the Shining Stars. I like Primo and Epico as just like, us, we're the clones, but Los Matadores, where they're just like, oh, I'm Diego now, and
Fernando.
Yeah, like that was awful.
I hated it. I hated all of it. I never liked any other tag teams. I wouldn't.
There is an article on Smark at the moment about how great Primo is, though.
I don't know how they didn't just go with Carlito and Epico and Primo or all the clones. It was right there.
They just never bothered to hire Carlito back.
Terrible. Los Matadores, I mean, they had one fun match. And it wasn't even really their match.
Yeah.
Here's a one that could be a potential yes. Chad Gable becomes Shorty G.
Yeah.
That irks me, that one.
Yeah, like I think that has to be on there. Because Shorty G, you're objectively making fun of the guy. And you're objectively having him go out there and be like, I'm just going to embrace me and be Shorty G. Like, because because remember, it was Shorty Gable. And then he's like, no, I'm going to shorten it. Ha, I'm Shorty G. Like, what? Objectively bad. To the point where he's Chad Gable now and he's obnoxious. And I laugh so hard whenever he says shoosh that you should have been doing this all along.
I've taken to sending people if they put any kind of like a DM or a tweet or something where they say something like, "Ah, man, great article." I'll send them the thank you.
Thank you. It's so good. And I think it could be in the consideration for Mount Rushmore of worse. And I'm going to go right here and say, so should this. There's no reason the lone wolf, Baron Corbin, should be, I'm Happy Corbin.
Happy Corbin.
Such a dumb name. Why is he called Happy Corbin?
Yeah, I really hate it. I wrote an article last night about people who need to change their names, and that's one of them, because Happy Corbin? What? Madcap Moss is dumb.
No.
But, like, Happy Corbin is worse.
Happy Corbin is so bad because he's got all the potential in the world. He's a legitimately huge guy. He's got presence. He's got, everything that you should want in a wrestler. And you're calling him Happy Corbin. And he also beat Kurt Angle in his last match. And you're calling him Happy Corbin.
And their justification for it was, I'm so happy, you might as well call me Happy. What the fuck is that?
You know what? Sidebar. Baron Corbin, they don't have enough respect to tell these people what they're doing to them. Baron Corbin told the story that he found out he was going to be Happy Corbin by finding out from websites like us that they trademarked Happy Corbin.
Yeah.
And they denied it to him. He's like, no, you trademarked this. It's everywhere. Oh, we have no idea what that is. What? Who else would it be for?
By the way, is Sidebar T-Bar's brother.
Yes.
They had a whole family. There's Candy Bar.
Don't give him ideas.
Yeah, Happy Corbin might be a Mount Rushmore one.
If we're sticking on a more recent theme, I want to talk about one that's also a very high candidate. Piper Niven to Doudrop.
Oh my god!
I wouldn't,
because the whole story behind Doudrop as a name, because I saw it was a name that was that's been batted around on like these Fightful Select and stuff like that, saying that they trademarked this name. It's like, okay, who the hell are they calling that? And then she comes in as Eva Marie's bouncer, pretty much, essentially there to fight Eva Marie's battles for her. And then Eva Marie just says in the backstage segment that her name is Doudrop, which Doudrop immediately looks and says, well, essentially looks around and basically went, so that's not my name. Why have you called me Doudrop? But they run with it. And now Eva Marie's nowhere to be seen, and she's still called Doudrop. It's like she's actually just taken the name.
Because she was going to be called, she was going to say, my name's Piper. And Eva cuts her off, looks her up and down and goes, I'm going to call you Doudrop. And we're just going to call you Doo-Doo. And it's like, what are you doing to poor Piper Niven?
And she still has that name.
And
it
God
means that
bless
she can't
him.
take her seriously, even though she has fought for the women's championship and she's had multiple matches with Bianca Belair and stuff like that. But you can't take her seriously as, especially not as as you used to be able to when she was Piper Niven or when she was Viper on the independent circuits. I know you can't call her Viper because there's Randy Orton around, but Piper Niven was a fine name. Why change it?
I hate it. I hate the name Doudrop, but at the same time, I wouldn't Mount Rushmore it. And here's the backwards ass apologist kind of way for me to argue this. They clearly wanted her, and I'm not justifying this, by the way, for anybody who's going to be like, this is a terrible viewpoint. Why do you have this, Tony? But I'm trying to bridge the gap a little bit here. They clearly still are in the LOL fat girl idea. It's not right, again, for anybody who thinks that I'm saying that that's true, but they clearly looked at her as like a Bertha Faye. And they wanted her to be LOL Doudrop is kind of funny because she is this big girl and she can be wearing this colorful outfit and she can do these little finger twiddles. And, Vince had apparently told her, you're dancing all the time backstage. Why don't you do that to the ring? So they looked at her as this cartoony gimmick. And then for some reason, when Nia Jax left, they're like, you could just be a heel now. And they just decided to keep the name and whatever. I hate it. But I didn't think Piper Niven was a great name as it was. I just thought that it was a name for the sake of it. And
nothing is worse than Doudrop is a bad name.
The Doudrop thing, I think if she would have gotten released after the Eva Marie thing, it would have just been like, oh, well, they killed her with the whole thing like that. Carrying it on makes it worse even. Because it is ridiculous that she's just Doudrop. But I think if you swing back around and make her that goofy character again, the Doudrop name, maybe you can get a little bit out of it. But I'm not denying that it's a horrible name because it's terrible. Everything about this is awful. And she should just be a more serious wrestler. She should have also won the NXT UK Women's Championship. That's another whole thing. From Kaylee Ray, who's now Alba Fire.
Think, or did they show a vignette confirming that?
They didn't, but it's her. That's because her real name's Kaylee Ray, but just spelled differently. So they're doing that.
It's still not as bad as Katana Chance.
Yeah, there's part of me that you don't understand, and I'm Katana Chance. I saw a great tweet, by the way, that I was just like, God damn, this person has exactly their finger on the same pulse that I have. They were like, why didn't they name her Katana Zaro? For Catanzaro.
Because it's got the name Zaro in it, and so they don't want any part of your...
And I was just like, that would have been so much better. It would have been, technically speaking, something that they could have trademarked, and she couldn't have done. But, like, that would have been much better. But
I don't mind I'll say this. I don't mind the name Katana Chance. I mind that, in her case, Casey Catanzaro, you're getting a brand and a person who was on American Ninja Warrior, and like you're getting outside, press from that, and you
probably were like 5 years ago when that happened.
But you're also just like, and now you're Katana Chance. They might as well just have a voiceover, like a narrator, just being like, and the role of Catanzaro has been switched to Katana Chance.
Like when you get you go to a Broadway show and it says the little insert where it's like the part of such and such today will be played by you.
Yeah.
Here's one to bring up. Nikki Cross becomes Nikki ASH. Almost a superhero, which you can argue it should be AAS, because superhero can be spelled with just one word, but it's not catchy. It is flimsy and awkward to say and to spell, and
it's awful. It's not good. It's very bad. It is one of just... It's insulting to Nikki Cross, who was a great wrestler on NXT, and the whole gimmick with Nikki was she was the sole female lumberjack in a match between, was it Morrison and Priest? And then she's like, I feel like a superhero. Cool. I'm almost a superhero. What? And shouldn't the journey have been her trying to fully be a superhero?
Instead of turning heel, and
instead of being, I'm just good being almost a superhero.
And it's also awkward as hell that they call her almost a superhero, Nikki ASH, which means almost a superhero, Nikki almost a superhero.
Instead of just being like almost a superhero, Nikki Cross.
Right.
But
but you got to change Cross because we got Karrion Kross in the roster for 2 weeks.
That's the best part. It's like, you went through all this and then you don't even have the guy. Fuck. How long until they change Rhea Ripley? Because she was Rhea Ripley beforehand.
They'll change her as part of, if she does join up with this Edge group. That'll be a nice. She'll be rechristened as someone else.
I think that's happening to Ciampa. I hope that's happening to T-Bar.
T-Bar won't be around to get it anyway.
Probably not, but
what about Babatunde to Dabba-Kato to Commander Aziz?
To be fair, like, all those names sound stupid to me. So it's like, it's not really any sort of changes, really. It goes from one to the other.
Babatunde is his real name. So they just, we don't want to call him that. So they go Dabba-Kato, which I thought was dumb. Commander Aziz, I don't dislike, to be honest. They just give him a new name. I mean, they could have called him Commander Dabba-Kato. For all we know, his name's Dabba-Kato Aziz.
It does mean as soon as that partnership with Apollo Crews ends, or one of them gets released, then it's just a case of they can't keep calling him Commander Aziz. Because it only works because he's aligned with Apollo Crews.
I think that at that point they would just call him Aziz.
Yeah, probably.
But
I'm sorry.
Here are a couple other ones. I don't know if I'd count it, but Scotty Goldman.
Nah.
Yeah, he was. That's what the name that he came in with, really. So that's how he debuted on.
I don't remember him being.
It's
Colt
definitely
Cabana.
worse than Colt Cabana, but it's still like, you know, it's not the end of the world.
Same for Braden Walker. Like, he didn't really come in as anything other than Braden Walker.
He came in to knock your brains out, though.
Yeah.
The name's fine on it. Yeah, and the name's not terrible anyway. It's like Braden Walker. It's not great, but it's like, it could work on someone.
But here is definitely one. Headbanger Mosh becomes Beaver Cleavage.
This is whole, again, Vince loves incest angle type stuff. It's just this whole storyline of him being a grown ass man in a kid's outfit in a black and white film, and he's obsessed with his mother's breasts. It's just like, yeah, Vince has really deep seated issues.
Yeah, he does. But somebody must have poor guy must have been backstage. You know, pal, you kind of look like Beaver. Leave it to Beaver if you didn't have those tattoos. And they went, got it.
Guarantee it was Pritchard.
And then someone, maybe even Russo, I don't know if he was there at the time, and I know you'll be obsessed with your mother's breast. Okay. Like, poor guy.
Beaver.
And then he went from that to being Chaz.
Yeah.
Hey, because he couldn't do the Beaver cleavage thing, because even they just had to be like, this is fucking dumb. And he, on camera, was just like, I can't do this. And then he's just, I'm just Chaz from New Jersey. Well, all right. Golly. Chaz.
What's the name of it was Barbara or something? The woman?
Mariana.
You're thinking of BB, Barbara Bush.
Forgive me for getting Barbara Bush and Beaver Cleavage mixed up.
Yep. Got a little more old school as well with this one. From Terry Taylor to the Red Rooster.
Oh, that's just, come on, that's like infamously bad.
Red Rooster is awful.
So, like,
he's the cock of the walk.
I love the story behind it as well, because apparently they brought in Terry Taylor and Kurt Hennig around about the same time, and they were toying up with the idea of which one's going to be the Red Rooster and which one's going to be Mr. Perfect.
Yeah.
And it's just like, he
now,
drew the short
Pritchard
straw there.
denies this. Pritchard says it's because
it's stupid and it makes him look bad. So, of course, he's denying it.
No, what makes him look bad is that he defends the Red Rooster as a good name. Terry Taylor, he walked like he was strutting anyway, and he was the cock of the walk, and then he fucking, like, the Red Rooster.
Even if you want to go like the Red Rooster, Terry Taylor, it's just like, Bret the Hitman Hart or something like that. It wouldn't have been as bad, but you went flat out full blown Red Rooster.
Fucking cock-a-doodle-doo. With the idea and the storyline being that Bobby Heenan was going to take a loser and a jobber and just be like, I'm going to give you a gimmick, pal. You're the fucking Red Rooster because I can make anything work. So they knew it was bad. Like, they knew it was bad. It's awful.
What do you guys think about Prince Albert and A-Train and Lord Tensai and Sweet Tea?
I was going to bring up, again, all those names are pretty bad. Like Prince Albert to start with, it's like...
Well, he was a piercer.
You're not a Prince Albert, is it? Yeah, it's a piercing guy. So, yeah, let's give him the name of someone. Let's give him the name of a Cochrane. Yeah, we'll do that. And then it's like, he goes from that to Albert, and Albert's like, it's generic, but it's fine. A-Train's his best name.
Yeah.
It just, even though it's stupid because it's just A-Train, it's still like, it worked for him, especially with the whole entrance surrounding it as well. But then to go to Tensai, and then to
Sweet
Tea with Brodus Clay. It's sort of, I wanted to add, like, talked about him in a collection of people which I think are similar to Kerwin White as well. The very, very group of names which are not only bad but are also racially insensitive. Name changes. The one that immediately springs to mind is From One Man Gang to Akeem the African Dream.
I can see them doing that today.
Yeah, well, that doesn't make it good or better.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just saying, like, they haven't learned their lesson. You're going to tell me that Akira Tozawa won't take a 23andMe test, find out he's like 2% African, and do exactly this?
Mm. See, I thought you were going to go with a different thing. I thought you were going to go with Kung Fu Naki.
Oh, Well, you could have gone with that. I thought you were actually thinking that I was going to go from Tony Atlas to Saba Simba. Because they do this. It always need to like pick one of these ones, like which are the worst of these ones. Like the whole, it's not so bad, not even just a bad name, but it's going to land you in hot water, and it's something that people are going to look back in 10, 20 years time and just like, wow, this company was racist as shit. That was so racist.
Scotty is on just the worst in terms of that, just because Saba Simba is bad, but at the time you were still dealing with gimmicks like Kamala and stuff like that, so you probably could have gotten away with that. In 2008, just being like, yeah, Funaki here. His first name is Kung. Ha, Kung Funaki.
I wouldn't Mount Rushmore worst Kung Funaki, because I'm sure a part of me would at least have pitched that. I'm just like, hey, Kung Funaki. But I mean, it was pretty bad.
It's so bad. We can't say this because they didn't change their names, but I want to bring it up here anyway. The Mexicools rode lawnmowers. Yeah, this company has a real bad history with racial stereotypes.
We mentioned it earlier. I didn't like Big Daddy V. I thought
that was dumb.
Yeah, it's dumb, but it's like, it's not one that I'd Mount Rushmore.
No, me neither. It's just one of the dumb things that's like, why'd you fucking do that? You know? What other ones do you have on your list? I think I might have been tapped out of the ones that I had written down.
Goldust to the artist formerly known as Goldust.
Yeah.
I hated it, but I wouldn't think that would be one of the worst ones.
Yeah, it's bad. Mark Andrews to Mandrews.
That was dumb.
Such a stupid name. Again, it's not Mount Rushmore, it's just such a dumb name that I had to bring it up.
Yeah, Mandrews is pretty bad.
Oh, well, we haven't said Gunther yet.
See, the issue with Gunther is that it's dumb and it annoys me, but it's a case of, it's one of those ones where it's just, you just ask, why did you change the name?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
as opposed to
because they fucking wanted to call him Gunther Stark. Because nobody Googles anything.
But it's more about the idea of, I would feel exactly the same way if throughout his entire time on the Indies and WWE, NXT and NXT UK, he'd have been called Gunther and they changed it to Walter.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of a lateral move. It's just an unnecessary one.
Yeah. The annoyance is the fact that the name was changed rather than what they changed it to.
And I hate Austin Theory just becoming Theory. I'm hoping that they'll change that at some point.
It's such a dumb thing. Like he can't main event WrestleMania as Theory.
Right.
Yeah.
And it seems like they're pitching potentially the idea of All Day Theory being his name, which is still just as dumb.
Owen Hart to the Blue Blazer.
Nah.
That's hard because we didn't know that he was Owen Hart.
Yeah, I thought that he was just
did the second time round.
I guess when you repackage it, yeah.
He's got the full repackaging thing as just like he's playing a gimmicky superhero thing. Like that's like, Helms becoming the Hurricane. I think it's fun.
Val Venus to the Big Valboski.
That was dumb.
Because they did for a while refer to him as only the Big Valboski. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
On SmackDown in 2002.
That was during the time where you weren't watching.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought that was just like a nickname for him, but I guess if they started really... I mean, I wouldn't Mount Rushmore it because it was a nickname, but if they flat out said, let's just lean more towards that, then that's pretty dumb. I'm also not a fan of how often they keep saying and stressing more and more and more that you have to say Seth freaking Rollins every time now.
Yeah.
It's not Mount Rushmore, but still it's kind of ridiculous.
That's his middle name.
No, that's his name.
Yeah.
His official name is Seth freaking Rollins now.
Yeah, it's funny that they, for some reason, Vince woke up a couple of years later and he's like, let's say that all the time now,
Yeah. Too Cold Scorpio to Flash Funk.
Was he Too Cold Scorpio in WWE?
I don't know. So
but then he would eventually be Scorpio. Along those same lines, Chris Candido becomes Skip. And I guess you can say this one. Tom Pritchard becomes Zip. Skip and Zip, really?
We have...
How was Sonny not another name like that?
It was Skip
they
Sunny
liked her.
and Zip.
But how was
I
it
guess
not
it-
like Skip and Zip and Chip or something?
Well, because
you know?
originally it was Skip and Sunny.
And then there's
And-
Zip.
And Zip came like 2 years later or something.
Got Cody Rhodes the Stardust.
Yeah. That's fucking
Yeah,
dumb.
With a gimmick, it was like, I guess that worked for a little while, but as it kind of went on longer and longer and longer, that was the bad thing about it. And the one that I think that's might be in contention, but whether we think that because it is a severe gimmick change, Jim the Anvil Neidhart becomes who?
What?
Fucking who?
Where? They really should have made a whole stable.
They were going to. And they just stopped themselves. I guess what was going to be the parody of Randy Savage? Like, who was supposed to be a parody of Hulk Hogan? What the fuck are we doing?
But they should, like, that would have been great for, like, one Survivor Series. For them to have who, what, where, when, and why. Sometimes how.
But yeah, those are the main ones that I had left. God, there are so many terrible ones.
And there's probably so many more too. That's the thing. So definitely leave comments to everybody for the ones that we forgot, because there might be one that we just go, oh my god, right, we forgot about that.
Yeah, like I'm trying to think if I can come up with any more, because I'm sure there was plenty of bad ones. You also have like the weird anomaly of Brian Adams, who was Crush and just stayed Crush despite multiple gimmick changes.
Yeah, like the Harris brothers becoming part of DOA and everything. Like, yeah, some up and down kind of different name changes here and there, but I think we got.
You can talk about Earthquake becoming Golga.
Yeah.
Ooh, you know what? That's a good one. And then there's stuff like this too. Like Tito Santana, after years on the roster, just becomes El Matador. Like, why? What was the need for that? Or what was the need for like? And Ricky Steamboat's not Ricky Steamboat anymore. He's just the Dragon. Must have go through one of their weird, like, trademarky phases.
This wouldn't really count because of the fact that he came in as, like, this was the name that he debuted under. But we could mention about how Lex Luger coming in as, again, I don't think this name he actually came under, but it was just the Narcissist.
No, like
and it was meant to be coming as Narcissus, wasn't he?
Yeah,
right.
He was supposed to come in as Narcissus. And then lightning struck, and they were just like, well, we should probably call him Lex Luger. There's equity in the name. You know?
There's a WCW one, so obviously we wouldn't count it with this one, but him going from Lex Luger to just being the total package and that being his name.
Did they really call him just the total package?
Yeah, in around about 99, 2000, he would just come out as the total package. Also, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat in 91 was just billed as the Dragon.
Yeah, like that's what I was saying. Like,
yeah,
I was like, the Dragon, the British Bulldog. Like, they just had this weird moment where they're just like, no, you can't have the name that you have. Just this now.
I'm sure there's somebody out there that's going to say Road Warriors going over to Legion of Doom is something that's really bad, but I don't think that that's some.
What about the Iron Sheik to Colonel Mustafa?
Yeah, it's really dumb.
Yeah.
Tugboat's not great, but like Typhoon is silly.
I think Tugboat's worse.
At least not the Shockmaster.
Yeah, it's true. Poor guy.
Yeah, I'm sure there are other ones as well, but those are, I think we've exhausted like the main ones that we'll probably be talking about.
Do you have any tag team ones?
It was mainly the Viking Experience was the main one. I had the Los Matadores as well. I'm trying to think of any other major tag team changes.
Listen, they didn't change them to this, but the Dicks is a horrible name for a tag team.
I'm trying to think of any ones that they actually changed midway through. None that are immediately springing to mind.
That exists.
that like they were the same members but changed afterwards.
So out of this list of ones that we've been talking about here, which ones do you want to potentially put down?
I mean, I think Retribution as a whole, just because that whole act and their names as singles, I think Retribution has to be up there.
It's a good way to incorporate a lot.
I think the Viking Experience should be in it.
I think Viking Experience is definitely one of them.
It's just such a bad name.
I think Shorty G, honestly.
Shorty G's a bad one, yeah. I'd say that's a high up one. I think we should probably single out about 8 or so and then decide about this one.
I think Happy Corbin is another potential.
I'm looking at this list and I'm seeing worse, but I think
Doudrop should be on it. I think Doudrop's such a dumb name.
I wouldn't vote Doudrop over so many other ones here.
I think Kerwin White needs to be on this list.
If we're going for one of the more racialist gimmicks, I'd go with Akeem.
I'm going to go with Kerwin White for this simple reason. You shouldn't be able to say, which many have, oh, well, at least in positive news regarding the death of Eddie Guerrero, Chavo Guerrero isn't going to be Kerwin White. You know, like, you shouldn't be able to do that.
I'd vote Kerwin White over Akeem. I do think Beaver Cleavage is definitely a major one. I think Nikki ASH is another really bad one.
I would a million times go Doudrop over Nikki ASH. So
they're both awful.
So if we're saying no on Doudrop, then I'm saying no to Nikki ASH.
What about you, Rob? Which one would you rank higher? Just for at least Doudrop or
worst name?
Nikki ASH.
Doudrop, because they at least made Nikki champion. Like they saw nothing in Doudrop.
Well, does that factor in for the name, or is it just the gimmick?
No, that factors in for the name because when you're packaging somebody, you have to look beyond certain things, and it tells you with Doudrop what they saw. And like you said, they just wanted to make fun of the way she looked, and I don't like that.
And the thing with Nikki ASH is it fits. I know you talk about the Doudrop thing is because the whole fat girl gimmick type association, but you said that it's like a Bertha Faye. Well, Bertha Faye's a better name than Doudrop. And Nikki ASH, at least she's a superhero. That's her gimmick. That's her get-up. That's her persona. Well, I know, but that's her persona. Whereas Doudrop, she could just call everyone and be the same person. But no, they've called her Doudrop.
I think Red Rooster is a potential.
Yeah, Red Rooster definitely.
I really think Michael McGillicutty should potentially be on this list to identify the idea of, if we're going Mount Rushmore as far as like categories go, the idea of saying we're going to give this person a generic name and making it that generic of a name. It's bad if you go with like a different gimmick, but not even changing the gimmick, but just calling him name like Michael McGillicutty. It's so goddamn bland. And that is kind of, it's a good example of all the bland names that we've gotten over the years. Era. Yeah. Where it's just like, okay, this guy is going to be like Jim Anderson, and this guy is going to be, I don't know, Lyle Williams or something, like where they just pick names.
Well, my question with that one is that was he ever Joe Hennig before appearing on NXT?
I think that they had flat out announced him as Joe Hennig first.
They announced him. They didn't announce him as Joe Hennig. They announced him as the son of Mr. Perfect, though.
Didn't they do a thing before where they were announcing the class of NXT and they were saying Joe Hennig?
No, they called him Michael.
Huh.
I think they called him Michael for that one.
So I don't think that, because I can't recall it. I know that was the name he used in SCW, but if we weren't going to count an OVW change at that point, then if it's not on TV, then I don't think we should count it.
Yeah, I thought that they had said Joe Hennig, but maybe I'm forgetting that, right?
I think even if that's the case, like even if they'd announced it, that's still, to me, that doesn't count enough as a name change because he didn't debut as Joe Hennig, and they changed it afterwards. He Even if they just said in a vignette leading up to NXT that I got Joe Hennig and then they decided to just switch it to Michael McGillicutty when the first show announced, that's not a significant enough name change to me. It'd be the same as like me saying that, oh, we should include Husky Harris when he'd been Wyndham Rotunda on the, or whatever that he would refer to himself as in FCW.
So I think, like, Red Rooster as like a legacy, all-time bad name change that he never lived down should be on there.
So we have at the moment, we have Red Rooster, Beaver Cleavage,
Corbin White, Happy Corbin, Shorty G, Retribution, Viking Experience. This is currently the, at least from what I've been tracking, this is the main group that we're going, because I wouldn't vote Akeem over these.
I think Mr. Ass is stupid.
I think it's stupid, but I don't think it's anywhere near as bad as these.
Like, he comes back from Mr. Ass.
And he never really stops being Billy Gunn. It's just kind of focusing a little bit more on his nickname. I think out of this group, I would go, for the sake of incorporating a lot of names, the Retribution group, Viking Experience, Shorty G, and probably Beaver Cleavage.
So, my logic is, with Beaver Cleavage and Viking Experience, they knew enough to know this can't go on for more than, I think in Viking Experience case, it went on for a week. And in Beaver Cleavage's case, maybe 2. So they at least saw the other side. Red Rooster never did. Chavo Guerrero to Kerwin White, I cannot not put that on a list.
If I bumped any of these off here, I'd bump one for Kerwin White. More so than Happy Corbin and Red Rooster. Red Rooster, as bad as it is, it's in a time frame where they think that that's going to catch on and maybe it'll be for the kids or something, you know?
His mom was Mother Hen, Tony.
See, I would argue with the Viking Experience, though. I don't think that they saw the end of that. I think that they thought that that was a good name.
Well, they kept it for their move, but, like, they didn't keep them as the Viking Experience.
I think that's just because of the backlash to it being so bad. If that wouldn't have been...
That's not them realizing, that's them being forced into changing it.
But at least they did that, though. They haven't done that with T-Bar.
That's why I definitely have the Retribution group on here. And Shorty G, I think, kind of almost has to be on here, because that really...
It's so bad.
They gave him the terrible ring gear and everything to go along with it, too. Like, they might as well have just said, here's a match, light yourself on fire, you know?
I'm going to say Shorty G, Retribution, Kerwin White, and Red Rooster. What about you, Callum?
I think, Retribution and Shorty G definitely.
All right, so we all go Retribution and Shorty G at the very least, so we know that those are 2.
I think I would put Kerwin White in it because it is an encompassing of that whole, like, racism stories.
It's bad.
Racist names as well. And then it's close between Red Rooster and Beaver Cleavage. Beaver Cleavage, I think, is an objectively worse name than Red Rooster.
So I'm cool with making a third vote for Kerwin White to be third out of the 4. Because we can always we can do a B tier on this one, too.
What about you, Tony? Beaver Cleavage or Red Rooster?
I'd go Beaver Cleavage.
All right, I can live with that because it's a bad name.
Yeah, we'll go Beaver Cleavage then. As the
Beaver Cleavage.
Because it's so dumb.
And then B tier would be Viking Experience, Eric and Ivar, Red Rooster,
Happy
Corbin, and
what do you think, Callum? McGillicuddy?
Doudrop is a woman. On the list.
I could say Doudrop. I think Doudrop is worse than McGillicuddy because honestly, McGillicuddy, he tried.
It's a name. It's a real name. He's got a real name.
And it's his middle name and his mom's maiden. So he picked that one. Dewdrop, though.
All right, well then that's the B tier. Dewdrop, Happy Corbin, Red Rooster, and Viking Experience, Zarek and Ivar. I hope we never have to have another kind of addition to this list other than the best name changes.
Oh, we will, I'm sure. But, like, realistically, who goes, I got it, you're doo-doo. Like, what the fuck? Who thinks, oh, man, they're hitching the wagon to me. Fucking doo-doo, Tony.
Well, you know what you should do? Leave a comment below. Tell us your thoughts on our list. You will find this up on our wiki page for the breakdown of all the different Mount Rushmore things. Now that this is officially locked in for the A and the B tier on this, and I guess one other thing left for us to do is just for maybe not necessarily make a Mount Rushmore out of this because we've already gone long enough, but any quick thoughts on worst name changes from company to company, like, you know, what's so and so doing in the Impact Zone kind of thing, like.
We're just going worst.
Like Goldust to Black Rain.
Oh yeah, that's terrible.
That's up there, yeah.
Oh, Goldust to 7 as well.
7, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, poor Dustin.
Yeah, Dustin's had a rough go of it. Trying to think of others off the top of my head.
I'm sure there's plenty from heading over WWF to WCW back in the day.
I mean, we said the Shockmaster.
I don't think there were that many, to be honest, because I mean, outside of some of them where they get a little bit litigious, like Jericho was still Jericho and he came over. Like Benoit, Saturn, Malenko, Guerrero was still the same, going from one side to the other.
Mr. JL for Jerry Lynn is just stupid.
What did it was Big Bubba Rogers, and what else did he go by?
Oh, so the Guardian Angel. That's not great.
There's something else I'm trying to think of.
I also want to say, as an encompassing one for a group, EV 2.0.
Oh yeah, EV 2.0 is really bad.
Yeah.
We can't say ECW. What can we chant that's kind of...
So the names that he took was things like so Big Bubba Rogers, The Boss, The Guardian Angel, Ray Trailer, and War Machine. At some point, this guy. It was Ray Trailer anyway, so that's kind of...
Well, yeah, and he was Big Bubba first. I think the Guardian Angel was a weird one.
Shockmaster.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Disco Inferno apparently went by Disco DISQO.
Oh yeah,
like
that was
Cisco.
for a while. Yeah, in TNA, I think.
Remember that? Wow.
No, that was in WCW. He was
That
like
wasn't
Cisco. Yeah, you know, Thong Song, great hit of the era. He's just Disco.
I know that AJ Styles, when he was in WCW, I think he was Air Styles for a while.
He was gonna be Styles with a Z in WWE, and I'm glad they talked him out of that.
Might have to change it now.
Yeah. After all this time.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Yeah, there's not really many that like scream out to me because I just can't recall.
I mean, I'm not a big
Enough
fan
of
of
them.
Haku becoming Meng.
I like Meng.
I think it's too like Meng. It sounds like somebody complaining. This isn't a name change, but I always liked this name just as far as a thing that sticks in your brain. Pez Watley. That's a name. I like that name.
I didn't like the switch from Kenta to Hideo Itami.
Yeah,
that's
to me it
quite
was
like
one of
that.
those. Just it's a name sort of deal.
I just didn't feel the need of doing
Riot
it.
to Soho is a good one. Like
Yeah,
she gets
I'd prefer Ruby
gets
Soho.
christened.
Right. Yeah.
as Ruby Soho. I like that.
On a highlight, thank God he became Edge and not Sexton Hardcastle.
Well, yeah, that's the thing with Triple H as well, going from terrorizing to
Right.
Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
Oh, well, while we're here, fucking Vinny Vegas to Diesel. But quite frankly, Oz to Vinny Vegas is an improvement.
Yeah. He just made some leaps.
I think Diesel to Kevin Nash was an improvement. I wasn't so sure about Razor Ramon sounds better than Scott Hall. Obviously, know why they have to change it. But I think Kevin Nash sounds better than Diesel. Like, Diesel was a name. It's like it works because the guy was huge, and they managed to get him over to a degree. But it's just a case of that name on its own is just dumb.
Part of me still prefers Big Daddy Cool Diesel over everything.
Um,
Trying to look at
we
the
could talk about
TNA.
Hulk Hogan used to be Terry Boulder.
Yeah, Terry Boulder to Hulk Hogan.
Well,
That's
fucking
that's
Beefcake used to be Dizzy Hogan.
Oh, Beefcake went through so many of these things. He was
Oh wait, yeah, the Disciple, the Booty Man.
yeah, the Booty Man. What was the Zodiac? Yeah, that's the one. We've obviously mentioned it before, but like going from the Giant to the Big Show. I think the Giant is a better sounding name.
God, I wish he was the Yeti. We'll talk about
the Yeti. Yeah, I'm sure there are so many different names that we're forgetting, especially if we start talking about, switching over to Impact and to Ring of Honor and so on and so forth. But that's where you leave a comment below. If you have any idea of, maybe you want to switch somebody over and be like, this person is better on this one. Maybe you're like, oh, I like, wow, this is a name. I'm looking at the TNA one right now. Becky Bayless, a.k.a. Cookie.
Yeah, she was a Cookie with
just because she looked a little bit like Snooki. Yeah.
That's right.
Damn, I hate this company. Wesley was just Dez at some point.
Well, he was Desmond Xavier. His name is Xavier.
Yeah, so, there's plenty of stuff to talk about. If you want to do another edition of this, you get to pick Poison tier or something, so keep that in mind. But that is our breakdown of the Mount Rushmore best and worst name changes in WWE history. And, if you liked it, hit the thumbs up button. Let us know. If you want to pass around anything, hit the share button. If you want to check out anything else that's happening on Smark Out Moment, go to smarkoutmoment.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Smark Out Moment. Go to fanboysanonymous.com. See what I'm doing over there. Follow me at Tony Mango all over the place. And I don't know, whatever the next thing is that's going to happen on any of these different platforms, including the freelance things, you'll find whatever it is up on like Twitter, because I just automated post everything. But when you're going ahead and you're following a bunch of things, follow what these guys have going on as well. Check out Dude Felice on all the different platforms.
Yeah, going forward after this podcast, I'll no longer be Bert. I will be taking my full name back. And you can follow me everywhere at Dude Felice. And you can check out just everything I have going on at Fightful and Fightful.com. And I appreciate all the support. I know that every now and again I do get someone saying, I follow you from Smark Out Moment. And that's so cool. Because this is really the genesis of all that. And
the genesis.
I didn't mean to do that, but it fits. And also go check out what Ernie's got going on over there.
Yeah, I like it. I'm going to keep it. So you can check me out at Ernie, at Ernie Meister. I'll switch back to Callum Wiggins. It sounds more natural to me. It's what I've gotten used to. I don't like change. So we'll have you can follow me at Wigmeister14 because that won't change. Follow me there on Twitter. Pretty much that's the only place you can really find me. Check out smarkoutmoment.com. All the weekly articles, check out the power rankings, my week-to-week contribution. And yeah, that's it from me.
That'll do us in for this edition. So we want to thank you all for listening to this. And we want to invite you to check out the next episode, which will be the hot tags coming up on a Friday. So in the meantime, just click around and see what else we got going on. But we will see you on Friday afternoon for that. Adios for now, everybody. This has been another Smark Out Moment, and we are being counted out.